welcome to this episode of the Preeti Girls Club, where today I have an ugly and a pretty as my special guest.
Guess who?
You decide. I think we know, huh? Anyways, so today on this episode with my most toxic friends, we're going to talk about toxic friends. I'm kidding. They're really not. They're literally the opposite. We're going to talk about toxic friendships, friendship breakups, and all that fun stuff. Ew.
It's literally our favorite topic.
Also, in case you don't know
Mine as well.
who we are, I'm pretty pleased. I'm pretty to some losers. And that's Ying, the woman who's usually behind the podcast. And this is Wee-san, the person who was behind a lot in my life before, but no longer behind. Sounds bad.
Yeah, it's no.
Yeah,
No.
sounds really bad. Okay, I love that. So yeah, I guess before we get into it, we're gonna talk about what toxic friendships actually mean, like the definition of a toxic friendship in general.
I found that this definition from Google.
Yes, and
It is Google is not a source that you can cite. But yeah, we are citing this right now on the Preeti Girls Club.
Yes, okay. So in a
Correct.
toxic friendship, you never feel that support or compassion. You feel minimized when they brush off your problems or ignored outright if they never respond to your messages or requests for help. In short, they aren't there for you when you need a friend most. That's the definition of a toxic friendship.
Wee-san doesn't reply message, right?
Yeah, wow. Oh my god, you really... Yeah, Wee-san sucks at replying people.
That's why you cannot cite Google sources.
So in this episode where we feature our most toxic friend, let's talk about toxic friendships.
Actually, this episode is our intervention.
Yeah, it's
we are trying to
intervention.
cut Wee-san out.
But this is our last chance for him to come back into our lives. If he doesn't budge, then he's out. He's out this
That's
episode.
it. Anyway.
Yeah. How you feel?
Let's see how. Not two mics in my face.
Not
I
the
mean,
first
too
time.
familiar.
Huh? Anyhow, really anyhow.
Anyhow.
Talk shit. Educate.
Sorry. This is to put the three of us together, right? We're not gonna
It's
talk
gonna
about
be
any
very
topic.
unhinged. Okay, so I guess the first thing we wanted to talk about is since we already defined what a toxic friend is, and obviously all of us here, we have had toxic friendships in our lives and some level of experience with it, no matter how, even if it's just a little bit toxic or super toxic. We've had toxic relationships for sure, but today we're focusing on friendships. So yeah, should we just talk about our own experiences about toxic friendships that we've had?
Sure.
A friendship that lacked compassion.
Mm,
Who wants to start? We lah, right? It should be me.
Correct, you.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be me. Okay, so I don't know. I feel like in hindsight, when you look back at a lot of the friendships that I've had, there've been some level of toxic. But obviously, when you're in a toxic friendship, similarly to a relationship, you don't realize it until someone from the outside or like a third party kind of like calls you out for it, or like objectively tells you lah, like, hey, actually this friendship is very one-sided, or like actually yeah, this is not how a friendship should look like or should feel like. And then you start to realize and you start to like look deeper and you're like, hey, actually, yeah, how come I'm not like everything I do is not being reciprocated the same way. So it's like your friend is basically not matching your energy lah. And I think for me, I realized that at a very spirally time of my life. So in 2020, like when my dad passed and a lot of things were going on, that was the same year that I actually had very like difficult conversations with people that I would regard as like my best friends at that point in my life lah. So a thing that came up was I felt that I couldn't really like express myself without feeling like some level of a burden. And then when you feel that way in a friendship, it's obviously very shitty because you're
And
like,
yeah, like I think the worst times in your life
Yeah.
are when you realize who are your actual friends,
yeah,
because then it shows very clearly, because at that time you need to lean on them, because most of the time like your
Mm.
personality as is like the reason why three of us are close. Like we are the kind of people that we are more of the kind that give. Like we'll be like, okay, you need help for this, I help you. Like no
Yeah.
questions asked. Like we will help each other in a heartbeat. But when it comes to ourselves, it's very difficult for us to ask for help. Like we are the kind of people that want to do everything on our own, or like we don't want to feel like a burden.
yeah.
Then the moment that like obviously 2020 was a very difficult time for Preeti, is like really at the moment that you're like, okay, I really cannot already. I need my friends. And then they don't show up. Then obviously it's a shock, because
Yeah.
you'll be like, oh, all along I've been giving, let's say 7 years of friendship, 6 years I've been giving. I asked for you for help for 1 year, you cannot even give me that.
Yeah.
So like I think that's why like it really shone
Sure.
shone a light. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Yeah,
Yeah,
on
but-
like the toxicity of those friends,
Yeah.
because you don't really see in a day-to-day
Exactly,
context.
and you don't keep tabs of like oh, how many things did I do for a friend?
Not
Because usually
calculative.
you don't do that in friendships in general lah,
Yeah.
unless you're calculative like that lah.
So clearly,
Wow.
if I count yours, is like 0 ah.
Oh.
No, I count for other people. People cannot count for me.
Like that ah. Toxic.
Very toxic. But I think for me it was like it wasn't a case of like friends not showing up for me, but it was a case of like one of my best friends at that point explicitly said, sometimes it feels like your problems are too big. And when that happened, it felt like, wow, that was a very like insane feeling to experience, because as somebody who was living through those big problems, it's like these are things that I never chose to experience in my life. These are things that happened very unpredictably in my life. And then for someone to basically tell me that, oh, it feels like your problems are just too big. It just felt like, but all I needed was for someone to show up and just be there and listen. And it wasn't like I never sought out a friend to solve any problem that I experienced. And you don't look to your friends to solve your problems, but you look to your friends to basically be there and support you throughout everything that you need to deal with. And of course, advice here and there, but that's ultimately it. None of your friends will come in and be like, okay, this one I fixed. That's not how a friendship works. Yeah, and some problems really can't be fixed. Some problems are not your doing, and it's just life and circumstance. And a lot of like my life has been like that lah, like family and just like very weird circumstances that I shouldn't, no one should be in, that I've had to experience. So when that exact words were said to me, I think for me that's when I took a very like long and hard look at like the friendships, and I was like, wow, to be made to feel like I was some level of a burden, or my problems were burdening someone else, was a very shitty feeling. And then that's when I started to get a bit closed off lah, and I was like, okay lah, my problems are too big, and then let me just not share them then, since they are difficult for you to hear. And then that's when like my dad passed away like a month after this conversation, and I remember feeling like my life was such a joke. And I was like, correct lor, not wrong lah, my problems are sometimes a bit too big in the grand scheme of things. So I was just like, she wasn't wrong when she said that, but it was very shitty to hear. And I lost a very long friendship that I had at that point in 2020, and I'm no longer like, I am friends with this person now, but it's a very civil friendship. It's nowhere close to like the friendship we used to have, but it's also like enough time has passed that I think there's been a healthy distance that like now I feel very comfortable to, if I want to meet this friend, I'll reach out lah, but I don't plan to have that kind of a relationship with them anymore.
But hearing what you said, right, I think on the other end of the spectrum, there's okay, this didn't happen to me. Yeah, this didn't happen to me, but it's what I observed in poly, like in my earlier years. So like there were these like 3 friends who were like really, really close, but 2 of them realized that this one girl, her life was too perfect for them to like deal with. So what? Because like she was getting good grades, but they weren't getting good grades. Then she had like everything in order in her life and all that lah. So then they actually asked me like, oh, why are you friends with her? And I said, because I'm okay with her lah. Like I don't see anything wrong with being friends with her, because she's a junior of mine. Then they were like, oh, so we kind of distanced ourselves from her because her life was like just too perfect, and like we just cannot relate.
That's a big L for
That's
those other 2 people.
the
Like
opposite
big
of
L.
what happened to me.
Yeah, so it's like the opposite of what.
Yeah.
Lor, so then I was like, doesn't really make sense,
I mean,
but y'all do y'all.
I guess ultimately that one is obviously jealousy lah.
Mm.
Like I'd rather that they distance themselves from her than be in her life and like make her feel bad for having certain privileges that the average person her age and her like her cohort, her friends around her
or
might
like
not have lah.
pretend to care.
Yeah, that would be really toxic lah. So I'm glad they distance themselves, but that's like, it's very shitty lah to have friends that are jealous of you. So then you don't know if they will ever genuinely support you or be happy for you. Then it's such a uncomfortable friendship because you cannot just be completely yourself and express yourself. Yeah, so what other toxic friendships have you experienced?
I think y'all know some of them, but
The one I never drink with the same straw.
yeah. So in poly year
I hate
one,
her.
we were all just like I was doing mass comm in Ngee poly, and we were just like this group of
They
us.
don't act
We're just having, you all both were from mass comm also, like you're also actresses. Yeah, so in poly, in year one, like we had like this group of like, I mean, you can call it a clique. Yeah, but it was kind of toxic because we are no longer friends now. Like I'm just friends with like one of them who's like one of my best friends now. So in Makan Place, if y'all know where that is in Yan, we're just having lunch, like a typical like normal day after classes, having lunch. And then this girl, she basically said to me that she asked me, I see all the guys in Makan Place, right? They all have a jawline. Why you don't have
Bitch.
Yeah, and then she
I can't break her jaw on the spot.
she still went on, and then like
You'll break her jaw.
yeah, then one of my friends actually defended me. Like she was like, what the fuck? What do you mean?
Why you make your friends all like that?
Because she has a very deeper voice than the rest of them. Yeah, but that same friend who said that also told me on a separate occasion. She basically asked me lah, like, cause I did tell her that I'm gay, and then she, y'all didn't know?
Oh my god, is this your coming out episode?
Ally. Yeah, so she told me like, oh, I told my mom you're gay, and then she told me like not to drink out of your like water bottle in case like you have AIDS. And then like I was flabbergasted. I was just spit in your mouth lah, might as well. Yeah, I was just flabbergasted because like
So was her mom.
so was my water bottle. Like, why? You can't say things like that to people.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's your mom who said it, like, you telling me that, do you not...
Critical thinking.
Yeah, so I think that qualifies as, like, a toxic friend. Because, like, you wouldn't say that to, like, another person and expect them to be okay. Unless you have something wrong with your head, lah. Yeah, so I'm glad we're no longer friends, but...
Yeah, and every single time we says her name, or like he has another friend with a very similar name, so every time he says the friend with a similar name who didn't do anything problematic, every single time he says her name, I'll yell out this problematic girl's name. I'll be like, her? Are you sure you're hanging out with her? And even though they don't hang out,
Sometimes it catches me off guard.
Yeah, I think it's funny though. But yeah, I think it's very problem. That one is not even toxic anymore. That one is homophobic, yeah.
Yeah.
And
no,
like,
and that one
honestly,
is so rude. Like, you
Yeah.
think that you're... Like, even if you're close to someone, you have to use your brain, right, before you
Yeah.
talk. This girl clearly doesn't. And it's just like, you just think that, oh, Wisan will accept whatever bullshit comes out of my mouth, even if it's rude to him because he's my friend.
Yeah, and also
It's just no respect for him, lah.
and I feel like you were talking about like being in poly, right? So she wasn't that young. She wasn't so young to the point where she would just blindly like repeat everything her mom was telling her and just echo every sentiment her mom had.
Exactly.
She was old enough to be should have been discerning enough to be like, oh, my mom's saying this, and it might have been like, it obviously is rude. And whether or not she agrees with it, it shouldn't have been something she even repeated in front of Wisan or
Exactly.
even repeated to
Anybody,
else.
yeah.
Just like let that very problematic thought process die with that generation and not perpetuate it lah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Ridiculous.
very problematic.
Just so y'all know, AIDS and HIV cannot pass through saliva lah.
In case y'all don't know, lah.
Well, someone needs to tell that to her mom, okay? So nobody knows apparently.
Apparently so.
Yeah. So how
Okay.
about you, Kaing?
I was in the previous podcast episode about cheaters, so there's toxic relationships. So
Yeah.
toxic.
Boo.
And then now we're gonna talk about toxic friendships. I feel like I've had my fair share of toxic friendships, but I think it really takes a lot for me to be able to cut somebody out fully. I think I give people a lot of discounts, excuses, or defend them a lot if I feel that they are a good friend to me, and then I don't really notice it when they don't reciprocate. So until like somebody, like what Preeti was saying, like somebody tells you, or like you see it very blatantly when some shit happens, if that makes sense. So I've had a couple of friends that are like that. Obviously it won't name names, but there are a lot of friends who come to me for advice. I don't know why people come to me for relationship advice when I'm fucking single for so long. And people come to me for like life advice or whatever. I think they just know that I probably might be the one to tell them what they want to hear.
But realistically, the single friends always have the best advice.
I guess so.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
given the best advice my whole life. And I only got in a relationship 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I like I'm often the person that my friends go to for advice. I just somebody to talk to because like free therapy is me. And then I'll spend hours and hours talking to them about their relationship, whether they should stay with this person, break up with this person, or like whether they want to talk about their job, they want to talk about their life, talk about themselves the whole evening. I will listen. I'll sit there and be like, I'll listen. I won't be a bitch and be like, why you never ask about me? I'll just go home and cry about that. But anyway, then after that, more often than not, when I actually need these friends to support me in a sense, that is when I notice that they're gone lah. So I always give discounts, and then other people will tell me like, oh, I don't like this person because like it's very clear that they don't reciprocate how they feel to you. They treat other people like shit. Why you don't notice it? Blah 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 blah. And then often like I spend hours giving them therapy, like talking to them, and then they will get back together with their girlfriend or boyfriend and not tell me. So when things are shit, they come to me. When things are good, they don't talk to me at all. So then it becomes a situation where I'm just like, what am I, chopped liver? Like
Fair weather friendship.
yeah. So then I realized, I was like, what's the fucking point lah? Like, you don't even know what's going on in my life. You don't ask me how I am. Just cause we don't post like IG stories of like black screen with small tiny words being emo anymore doesn't mean that you don't check up on your friends. You get what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I feel that like with the three of us, like we might not talk all the time. I think me and Preeti talk most often because we work together on this podcast and everything, and Wisan's very busy with school. But it's like never that Wisan is not aware of our lives. You get what I mean? Like you still will care, or like care enough to listen, or like we will care enough to ask you how's school, how's your family, etc., etc. And that is just very basic friendship. But that's when I realized like those toxic friends that I had that I finally cut out. It's like when you cut them off, it feels like you lost a limb, and then after that you feel like
suddenly the limb grow back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it literally is like, oh shit, my life is so much better without them.
Yeah.
Like I don't stress about what I'm gonna say to you, or why if somebody comes to me and be like, oh, I don't like this person, then I will have to be like, find 10 million reasons to defend this one individual, when actually in actual fact, which I found out obviously before, when other people talk shit about me in front of them, they'll just listen and they don't defend me.
There's
so
also like
yeah.
one of those like, I guess that feeling that you experienced of feeling like a weight is lifted off your shoulders lah. Suddenly, I also think it's like what people call it, like energy vampires, right? Like people
they
that just
suck the life out of you.
yeah, and they just take and take and take whatever they can from you and this friendship and all the value you bring to this friendship, and they don't give lah. And then you just leave like every time you meet them, you just leave very drained, very exhausted, and you're like, actually I didn't do much, I just went out for dinner, but why am I so emotionally spent and I'm like
these
done
people
for the
are
week.
so self-absorbed. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like, I mean, to me, maybe as my kind of person, as like who I am as a friend, you can notice when someone like clearly doesn't want to listen to what you have to say, or like if they're clearly having a bad day, you don't need to dump out your whole fucking life, job, career on them and talk to them about your job for hours and hours and hours, talk about money, talk about your job. I'm like, it's personal. But like, you get what I mean? Like, read the room.
Yeah.
And then like most times like your good friends won't be an ass and be like, never mind, you can just talk about it lah, just go ahead. But like, read the damn room. I think that's why there are so many people who are in this kind of friendships that like drain their energy but they don't realize it.
Yeah.
It's honestly better to just cut them off. And not saying that these people who are like that are horrible people. They're not. It's just that these friendships are wasting your energy. Like maybe you're just not the right fit to be their friend. You get what I mean? Yeah.
And I guess we've spoken a bit about like cutting toxic friends out of our lives,
I'll
like
talk about that.
Yeah, and taking a break from it. But do you have another?
Oh no, I just want to say like it's not easy to
Yeah.
cut off a toxic friend.
It's not.
It's really not easy, and if you're in like close proximity with these people, right? Like let's say school, or like you have like it's you're all bound by a certain like
School or
similarity.
work or, yeah.
It's not easy to it's not easy to cut them off. Like you see them every day, you have to deal with that like emotional, like not I wouldn't say damage, but emotional stress of seeing them every day and trying your best to not acknowledge their presence or to not acknowledge their like snide remarks and stuff like that. It's really not easy. And yeah, lor, in school it's also like that lah. Like, cause if you're in a clique, like for example the cult that I was in, it's very hard to like, cause if you go to lectures, we'll all sit together in one row.
Yeah.
And like if one day suddenly you decide to like sit behind or sit in front and not be with your like your clique, it's everyone will question, like not just your own friends, like not just people within that clique. People around you in your lecture will also be like, oh, why is Wisan not sitting with them today? Oh my god, oh my god.
Gossip lah, basically.
Yeah, it gets
Yeah.
bad.
And also one thing that I want to say is like what Wisan was saying, it makes you, the person who's cutting this toxic person out, look like the fucking bitch.
That was me. That has been me for the last how many years.
It's a stupid thing because then people will just say like, the toxic friend will be like, I don't know why she cut me out. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, bitch, obviously you fucking understand. It's just that you, okay, maybe you don't because maybe you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
But like, there is a reason. And like, I feel that friends who cut off other toxic friendships, don't wait till like one time you cross me, I cut you. No, it's like months and months and months of like shit that you throw in my face. Then I bury it already. Then I'm like, okay, I give up. Yeah. And then like when you are gone, then suddenly they're like, oh my god, why didn't they talk to me anymore?
Like, shocked.
Yeah. But actually like all along they never talk to you leh. But then the moment it's clear that you don't reach out anymore because they never reach out to you first, they'll be like, oh my god, like why she suddenly ignore me?
Yeah,
like
like
why she
you're
acting like a
suddenly the
bitch?
bad
Then
guy
suddenly,
lah,
yeah, exactly that. Like Wisan was saying, like if he sits on another row in lecture, then they're gonna be like, they fight ah? Why? What did Wisan do? You know what I mean? Because Wisan is the one who's taking the effort to step out of the toxic friendship. It's always the person who is like cuts the other person off first will seem like the bitch,
Yeah,
which is not fair.
And I explicitly had like so in poly I was a part of a very very big clique of friends lah, and obviously when you're in a and when you're in a very big group of friends, like we're talking more than 10 people, it's a lot of personalities, a lot of people to manage, a lot of relationships within the friend group, so a lot of things like that, that's like a lot of factors, and it's not just simply, oh, this is a friendship, it's not as easy as that. But I think for me, like eventually a couple of years ago, when I started to realize that I guess the friend group in general didn't bring me a lot of joy, and started to get very toxic, in a sense where a lot of very toxic behaviors were getting perpetuated within the group, were getting enabled, like people were not being self-aware enough. And I always thought that my group of friends were very self-aware. I always thought to some extent they got it, they understood.
That's how they portrayed themselves.
Yeah, they clearly could tell right from wrong, they clearly could tell what's not okay. I would like to think that they were not problematic, misogynistic, all these things. But then eventually, as we got older, I started to see a lot of these traits, and like we're full on adults at this point, we're not kids in school anymore, and to see that these are traits that I don't want to be around, these are traits that I actively avoid, and if anything, I call out, so it was very funny to see that actually the people that were like my ride or dies and like my closest friends started to display a lot of these problematic behaviors that I really don't want to be any part of, and I really started to be very critical about at that point in my life as well, because I was growing up as well. So I started to be very uncomfortable around them, and I started to notice things like pay more attention to the conversations that were happening around me. And I was like, I actually don't know, other than talking about other people or saying very questionable, problematic things, what else were we talking about? And then I started to be very critical, and then a lot of things were happening in my life, right? So 2020 was a year that was a roller coaster of emotions, honestly. And 2019, of course, that was also 2019, 2020, I've had back to back like very,
Crazy
very
years lah.
shitty years lah, to be frank. And dealing with that was enough for me to like, whatever time I had, I really just wanted to spend taking care of like the people closest to me, and I didn't waste my time doing other things lah. So when I started to realize that actually a lot of these conversations, relationships, like time we were spending, just honestly felt like a waste of my time. And when a lot of problematic things started happening within the friend group, and I'm talking about things like sexual harassment, like I'm talking about predator shit, like very problematic things, illegal shit lah, basically. And I was like, why are we not calling this behavior out? Why are we not saying anything? Maybe we didn't when we were back in school because we didn't know better. Like, sure, you want to pull that we were too young, we didn't know how to react, we didn't know what to do card. That's still all very valid because we were young, teenagers. But eventually now, as grown adults, to not do better with the information that we have and just life experiences and everything that we know now as adults, just felt very convenient lah. That you just keep like, for the sake of the friendship, you forgive very problematic behaviors. Then to me, that's a toxic friendship. What you allow your friend to just fully do whatever they want, get away with it, know that there will be no consequences to whatever actions they do, and know that they will forever have the backing of a very solid group of friends that will keep enabling them to do.
And the crazy thing is that like, obviously these people that Preeti are talking about, like we also know, because I mean we're all from the same school. You get what I mean? It's not like some brand new information we don't know these people, but it's more of like, it's like, you also, in a sense, like make yourself feel very two-faced, in a sense that if let's say this person, let's name this person James, okay? I don't know James. It's like James Sharp. Okay, let's name this. Yeah, he's our lecturer, sorry. Okay, James says some misogynistic shit, and then I scold him and be like, hey, fuck you, don't say this kind of shit. Okay? But if Wee San says it, I'll be like, ha ha ha. Then
because we sound like
my good friend.
Yeah, which doesn't really make sense lah.
Exactly.
And I think you need to acknowledge like some friendships can be situational. Like situational as in like a situation is like a school. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can be friends in school, you can like, pick each other for group projects and work together and stuff and have that like cordial relationship. But beyond school, if you feel like you don't need them in your life anymore, you can cut them off. You can. And then like we said, it's hard. But it's easier if it's already beyond school and like interactions are limited, and it's really up to you to make that choice of whether you want to meet the person or not. Which
none of us interacted in school, and we were all from the same school.
I feel like me and Kai have got like acknowledge each other at least.
You were her SL, right? GL.
You don't say this kind of word.
Group leader.
I hated camp so much, but that was the only fun camp in my life. Yeah,
freshman bonding camp.
I think like another thing, adding on to what Wisan said, like situational friendships, I also think a very convenient excuse that that has happened since like graduating from school and everything has been distance lah. Distance being the main reason, or like drifting apart, or like life getting in the way. We're all working different jobs now. Like we can't spend. I just farted. Wait, second time we did this on a podcast episode.
I can't wait that time.
Ah man, this one can keep.
No,
Anyways,
I can't.
so I think it's very like people conveniently use the excuse of distance and growing apart and aging as like a reason why we drift apart. But I think honestly, if the friendship is valuable enough, that usually doesn't happen. And I think it's similar to what Wisan said lah. Like you no longer see the value in this friendship, or like actually this friendship only made sense when we were in school, when we had that proximity. But now it doesn't, and it's too much effort to maintain this friendship that I don't mind losing it. Like I think it's very evident in the way people react and how they choose to maintain a friendship or not. Yeah, but for me, like when I did cut off like the friends that I did mention, or when I started to realize that this is just not healthy for anyone lah. And if I'm going to be around people that perpetuate a lot of problematic things, that's not good for my mental health, and that's not right. That doesn't sit right with me. When I chose to do that, I had a friend that explicitly asked me, a friend within the same group who was pretty neutral, who explicitly asked me, who said to me like, I don't understand how it's so easy for you to cut people off. And like Wisan also mentioned this just now, like
Massive eye roll.
Not
It's
easy.
never easy. It's never easy.
It's very difficult.
It's worse than a relationship breakup when you
are
cut
the
your
one
friends.
that suddenly you're the one that's isolated. Like you're the one that's away from, and when it's a big group of friends like what I was in, like a 10
Feels
person
horrible.
thing, you watch these people spend time with each other every other day like nothing happened. Like the loss, they didn't even take time to grieve the loss of you, you know, and the friendship. And it just feels a bit like
they just move forward with life, or maybe me being in it or not didn't make a fucking difference to them at all.
And I would
it
like to
feels
think
like
that
way.
me being in it didn't make a difference. Like I
Of course
I would
lah.
like to think that I had an impact on the friendships and the relationships I had at that point, but like it didn't feel that way lah. You know, once I cut off this
The way they
group of
act
friends.
also long.
But another thing to note is that I think the distance really did help lah, because now that it's been a couple of years since I've no longer been a part of this friend group, I've started to I also see the people who bother to reach out, and I also see the friends that I used to be really close to that actually had enough time to think about this, enough time to like spend on their own, and then reach out to me at a later point to be like, actually, do you want to catch up one day? Yeah, so I really enjoy having that one-on-one friendship with these friends that have bothered to reach out, and I think that distance really was really helpful to salvaging this friendship to
Whatever was left of the friendship.
and now it's come to a point where it's healthy. You know, we meet each other whenever we want, whenever we think about each other, we can text each other, we have the space to do that, and it's not like, oh, this is someone I cut off before. There's all this like weird ego and tension and pressure to like, how should I act around them? You know, I feel very like comfortable around them and free like without the pressure, the shackles of a friend group and a clique.
Yeah.
So
But I think like the clique thing that y'all both were saying also, like, I mean, we also know the clique thing is a very school kind of situation that, I mean, you gravitate towards people that you relate to in school, and then you all form a clique. Like in secondary school also, I had a huge clique of 14 people. That's half the fucking class, okay, mind you. And like it was horrible lah, because I mean, even with 14 people, as big as your friend group is, right, left out, the one person always left out is me. And then I will be like, I don't understand why, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but then I realized after I left school, these 14 people, out of these 14 people, only like 4 of us are close. And mind you, one lives in London, okay? And then the other two, one of the other girl is like same like poly as me. So it became like of course we're going to stay close. Proximity thing. I love her lah, but that's besides the point. It's like in secondary school, it's like you think these people are gonna be your ride or dies for life. It's really not. Like people who are your ride or dies for life are people who bother to keep in touch. Like what Preeti was saying, like one of my best friends lives in London. Call her every 3 months to update about what has happened in the past 3 months. But like, when she comes back, nothing has changed. Those are actually called actual friendships that people give when people give a shit about you lah. And it goes both ways. You know what I mean? It's never a one-sided thing. So like, that's why like it's damn cliche, but people always say like you really don't need a big group of friends, you just need a few people you're close to, and it's very true.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah, and it really is, because you might sometimes feel that like, wow, I often feel this way, and I feel lonely. I'm not alone, but I feel lonely very easily. Where like a weekend, for example, like last weekend, I wanted to go out and nobody was free, and then Preeti was overseas, and then Wisan is not free. Then I'll just be like, oh, I got no friends. But then when you actually sit and use your brain,
yes, I feel that way all the time. But
but we use your brain, we literally hang out all the time, and like it's just this one weekend out of every weekend that we hung out together, that she's overseas and I'm at home, sitting at home, being like, I got no friends. Like, it really is, like, just a few friends is really enough, because when you spend time together doing absolutely nothing and you still can have a proper conversation or feel comfortable with them, that's really so much more worth than being in a big group and going like you know, like going to like big group gatherings all the time. It's also very exhausting, eh? And like, how often can you say like, okay, let's say your clique is like 10 people big, 40 people big, you're close to everybody, meh? It doesn't work that way. You will always have one or two people that you gravitate towards. So then, is it really worth being in this big group of people who
It's
really
like
don't care about you?
Sub-cliques within the clique, and then that
Yeah.
also has some
Yes.
source of drama.
Drama.
Wow, messy, very messy.
Then
So it's just so
awkward.
tiring.
We apologize for interrupting your listening and viewing experience of the Preeti Girls Club, but this episode has come to an abrupt end. We are going to be continuing the Toxic Friendships episode in part 2 next week. Stay tuned. Goodbye.